Welcome to Ignite Agility. Today we're debunking fictitious posts flying around the internet about large scale Scrum, or as Ed Ballou and I like to call it, someone on the internet is wrong. How many times have we done a someone on the internet is wrong
It's been at
podcast?
least 2 or 3, I think. One maybe didn't get recorded for good reasons.
You definitely want to listen to the end because we're going to give you reasons or tips why large scale Scrum actually delivers value. But first, we got to talk about all this nonsense. The first headline that I pretty much laughed on the floor, right? Just rolling on the floor laughing, was LeSS and Scrum have finally broken up. What? No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Which ones made you kind of say, what? That
There were a
isn't
couple
true.
lines that I was just like, "Are you serious?" I was like, I don't think that that's even true. Knowing knowing the creators as I do, I really don't think that that's true at all. But okay, I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I read this wrong. And so the first one was it obfuscates the role of Scrum Master and PO, or really even just deletes the Scrum Master. And I'm like, no, that can't be true. Let's go and open up the less Scrum guide, and both versions. There we go. Yeah, and take a look at what's actually the difference. Because if we're not doing true research, then we're just writing puff pieces to grab attention, and that's
Clickbait.
not great. Yeah, clickbait. Oh, it's terribly enticing to write that and get the attention. If you're not getting the attention you need, it's very easy to write it because we're humans. We love that emotion. We want to go click on that and go fume.
What's another one?
The other one was well, just how it started. Let's divorce Scrum, and then the very next word was but.
Yeah.
But but what? So you're gonna make an assertion, and then you're gonna say but. Well, that doesn't mean anything.
No. And they didn't change their name, large scale Scrum. And one of the things I appreciate as an educator is how much history Craig Larman and Bas Vodde, the co-creators of large scale Scrum, remind people of, because I think a lot of it is getting watered down or forgotten. So the thing that hurt the most, I guess, or that really ticked me off, if I'm being honest, is somebody called them unethical and said they're probably doing something illegal. And I'm like, no, once again, copying without knowledge, not even reading. This is the actual Scrum Guide by Ken Schwaber. Yes, Jeff Sutherland's name's on it, but Ken's the one who founded the Scrum Alliance originally and actually started capturing things in the Scrum Guide right here. Big old message letting people know it is in the Creative Commons. It is open source, which means anybody can take what's been put in the Creative Commons and do something with it. Scaled Agile framework, anyone? Anybody think that that's unethical or illegal because they took this work and did something else with it? Scrum at Scale
Scrum and scale. Yep.
also has Jeff Sutherland's name on it. And yes, many things in these two documents directly contradict each other. I mean, holy confusing, Batman. So these folks are not doing anything illegal. They're taking the framework and saying, we made a few tweaks to it for the purpose of scaling, which obviously you need to. So drives me a little bit crazy that some people had to take the posts in that direction.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense with well, I've only been in Craig's class so far, but it just I don't get that vibe from him at all. He's very thoughtful in his approaches and the reasons that he does. And if he had a true disagreement that it needed to be in the Scrum Guide, he would definitely take it forward and pose that. And I think that in a couple of cases that they have, right, in the past, and has changed some wording because of their contributions. So I think that there's a great relationship there. And to call it unethical or stealing is like, it's just false.
Right. Totally false. And historically, the Scrum Guide has even changed numerous times. And Craig and Bas have traditionally only had the large scale Scrum framework rules available out on the website, out on less.works, or in their book, right? So, yeah, high time to put it in something that's easy to download, that's only 15 pages and so on. But in the Scrum Guide changes, even like, look at how many things have changed over the years, for the better, like removing the word grooming, thankfully, right?
Yes.
2013, they get rid of grooming and replace it with
Refinement.
refinement. Well,
Yay.
guess which word has been in large scale Scrum since the early days?
Refinement.
Refinement. So is
Yeah.
anybody going, oh, Ken Schwaber stole something from Craig and Bas? No, no. So get over it. All these things influence each other. All these things inspire one another. Nobody's doing anything unethical. Nobody's doing anything illegal. These folks are saying, these are the few tweaks we made when you implement this in a multi-team. I'm not even going to say scaled because it's really not. Multi-team environment.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's start talking about some of that because I really wish a lot of these people would go right to the source. Why don't you engage Craig or Bus in a conversation about this? Why don't you go and meet them as you have? I mean, you've even gone a couple of times to Craig
Yes.
Larman's workshop. What's
Yes.
one of the biggest ahas you had? Like, what's like one of the biggest mind blowing
Oh
things that
man.
happened in Craig's workshop when you started to learn this thing called large scale Scrum?
Just this idea that the system is not designed, it's discovered. When you think about it, I mean, it's the system is always changing, right? However, leadership, God bless them, they want to, and they maintain that structure, right? And ultimately hire and fire decisions, right? Um, but even for people in that, of new leaders coming in or new people coming in, the system is always changing, and so you're just discovering that fact. Oh, I know when I'm working with this person, I can be very blunt, or this person, I have to really get a couple people together to convince them, and even of what you're doing, the value that you're creating is like you're discovering the value that you're creating. Oh, customer didn't like that. It was terrible. It fell flat on its face. Oh, okay. Well, we'll be agile, uh, and go from there. But that's the part of this discovery, and we're trying something, this experimentation, right? And so just to encourage that you can't just design the perfect system and architect the perfect system, and you need to allow for that. And it's a constant process of discovery of what you know now versus not what you think you'll know or what you need when you get there.
And I know for a fact you've taken away visualizing feedback loops or creating
Hmm.
causal loop diagrams. And when we say system, we don't mean piece of software, we mean organization, ecosystem.
Hmm. Yes.
This thing as a whole with all this stuff influencing each other. How has that helped you be not just a practitioner, but somebody who's trying to help people where you work go from knowing Scrum to, really realizing value with it?
Hmm. Yeah, it's been incredibly helpful to slow down and think about things because sometimes you can get into like mentor mode or expert mode, and you're just like, this is wrong, or you may much better. You're like, I think we could do things a little differently and get a better effect, right? But you're able to like, let's riff off that, which is even better of a response to something that you disagree with, and just taking that forward, and then let's jot that down. Like, this is the parameter that we're seeing or that you don't like. What are the influencing factors to that? What do you think? Just shout them out, and then you can start getting that buy-in to what is happening in the system. What are the variables that we want to either increase or decrease, and then what are the things that are influencing those factors? So, yeah, it's been very, very helpful to understanding um, all the things that are in motion.
Yeah, most of my graduates know I'm not a big fan of saying right, wrong, bad, good. But when I'm talking to Ed Ballou and we're saying someone on the internet is wrong, I will say wrong. just because of just the blatantness of it, right? Like some of these posts, I think you mentioned, saying, well, not only did, large scale Scrum divorce Scrum, but, it's not even the same. Like there's no sprint goals. Didn't you say like you hit?
Yeah, that was really strange. The one of the or complaints was that the LeSS doesn't have sprint goals, and I like immediately I saw that, I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with that. But okay, let's
Hey, let's
see.
fact check it.
Yeah. So then I literally
Let's
pull up the LeSS Scrum guide, Control F, and type sprint goal, and 15 instances of sprint goal. And I'm like, I don't, unless you're disagreeing on what is the definition or the activities or qualities of a sprint goal or establishing a sprint goal. I can't get behind that statement. And then another one was like, the events are not the same, and I'm like, okay. So now, because of this one sprint goal thing, I'm like already like, okay, how are you bastardizing this one too? The events are not the same. You pull up Scrum guide, you pull up the LeSS Scrum guide, and there's basically there's N in the Scrum guide and there's N+1 in the LeSS Scrum guide.
Which to me is semantics, because
yes,
we call refinement an activity in one team Scrum in the official Scrum guide. Okay, big whoop. They're like, you know what? No, it's a standing meeting. It's an event.
It feels like lawyer speak. They are not the same.
Right. So yeah, super silly. I think it's harmful when it's so unfactual. I, I don't think that helps. I don't think that adds value. So you went right to the source. You went right to Craig's workshop, learned that the system is not designed, it's discovered, learned the value of feedback loops and communication. Anything else? Any other ahas there?
Yeah, this idea that just and it's no surprise, but it's just a good reminder of that learning and variability go hand in hand. And maybe to say it differently, and this is, I think, a direct quote from the course, is that it's a research and development process, not a plan and execute methodology. And we get that so wrong. Again, going back to that, that it's not designed, it's discovered. So this is knowledge work that we are doing. It's not a hard and fast process and cookie cutter exact. This is exactly what you do. So I like that idea. I think you even said way back when, I think maybe on one of our first podcasts of FAIL stands for first attempt in learning.
Mm-hmm. We are running experiments here. Craig and Bas talk a lot about experiments, and it's rooted in empiricism, which is Scrum's foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So again, reflected in large scale Scrum, transparency, inspection, adaptation. It's not necessarily a failure. We learned a lot from that. So how are we going to adapt based on what now has come to light or what we've learned? So yeah, drives me nuts, because if we just fact check, if we just go to page 5 of the official Scrum guide, it talks about when you do get too big and you need multiple teams of people, there's one true product owner, one product backlog. Well, gee, guess what? Guess what still exists in LeSS, ironically, also on page 5, one product backlog, one product owner. Ironically, or not, Mr. Sutherland completely contradicts himself in the Scrum at Scale guide, where he says, nope, there's a product owner per team led by somebody called a chief product owner. And now we're building a hierarchy around that. So both the official Scrum guide has his name on it, and so does the Scrum at Scale guide. So which is it? That is a breaking up of Scrum, in my opinion, not what Craig and Bus have done here. So let's give folks who maybe aren't as familiar with large scale Scrum some of the thoughts that you and I have about why we believe in it so strongly, or why we as practitioners continue to try to bring value to organizations we serve with large scale Scrum. I think we're pretty aligned on the first one.
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
is
One true product owner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough, because when you think about that, and like one of the Craig likes to say, "You're living in a fantasy," or "You've lost the
Are you
plot."
channeling
He
Craig
says
now?
all the time. Oh yes, absolutely. Some of those quotes really stick with you, and it's actually really good. Although you never want to say them in front of leadership or something like that.
Yeah, no career
Um,
limiting moves.
yes, yes, for sure. But when you think about uh, right, we as people are we're not just output producers, right? The product owner, it never intended that they were just the person who creates the backlog items and just writes them down, all the requirements.
They're not a
When you
business analyst.
it's not that. And so when you're thinking about that, and it does, the workshop does suggest some ways to unpack some of the drudgery of the product owner, because you're getting in that shift from prioritization, and then like, who, well, only the product owner knows the priorities. We got to go talk to them. And it decouples that, because you start thinking about the parameters of what is the product owner using in their criterion to rank these. You get into that ordering process, and then you can just put those fields in an Excel spreadsheet and put in the values. And yeah, you can debate about the values, but in the end, it's pretty much, here's your order, and you just quick sort, and you're good to go. So, and it frees them up to have those conversations, to really do that knowledge work, either talking with customers or talking to developers, and really just having them be that vehicle for what the product will be delivering, or the value that we'll be delivering. So
And I think the thing that is such a shock to the system with a lot of people that I talk to coming through the workshop is they come in thinking the product owner isn't a leadership accountability, that it's somehow a business analyst equivalent writing things down for developers to just grab and code monkey off of. And it's like, no, we're really looking for motivated individuals, like Principle 5 in the Agile Manifesto says, for software development, for product development. We want these developers to be professionals. So they have to write things down for themselves. The people who write the most learn the most.
mm,
Product owner is leadership. It's leadership. So if you don't have that happening in one team scrum, it's not going to be successful anyway. So if you can't scrum, you're not ready to scale. If you haven't nailed it, you're not ready to scale it. So that one
mm,
true product owner is something I think, even if people aren't looking to scale, having that understanding of what that really is intended to be is a huge takeaway.
yeah,
When you start
yeah.
really learning less.
And then there's the other one that I've heard a complaint about, the less huge variant, is that, well, an area product owner is the same thing. Like, you're having multiple product owners.
But it's not. I hear that too from people, because I'm pretty open with my thoughts about this chief product owner thing from Scrum at Scale. And people will say, well, it's just like an area product owner. No, it's not. Because a chief product owner, by definition, page 13 of their guide, leads team level product owners. An area product owner can have up to 8 cross functional teams serving that one area, requirement area product owner. So it's still a leadership role. It's still, but due to the magnitude, right? You've got the product owner who's more strategic, area product owner a bit more tactical on this requirement area. So 8 cross-functional teams is not the same as one per team.
Mhm.
Like,
If I remember right, you're still aligning that to minimize your dependencies or completely
correct.
eliminate them.
Eliminating them. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it. You got
So,
it.
yeah. So that's very different, because you're thinking a traditional product owner is owning everything, and then many product owners are just owning a subset of that, but then can still go expansive. No, 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 no.
You're reducing transparency. You're
Yeah.
creating dependencies in that situation, which is the opposite, hence the lost the plot
Yeah,
quote that you
yeah, and that's the one that scares, when I did take this knowledge back to my organization. It really scared them, about when I showed all of the communication correction and just waste that's done by having these so-called product owners and business analysts and all of that stuff. It just really, like, oh man, that's a lot. That's things would have to change quite a bit,
well, you
and
don't have
then
to
they
do it
kind of
all at once.
right, and that's the thing, is like the instant reaction of when you show them that information, that they feel like that now the balance scale, they have to, or tip to the other foot, type thing, and like, they have to change all at once, and that's not it either. So
No.
I've really appreciated how this has, even though you've done the workshop and taken it back and shared some of the things, there's that's why I've gone back to the class twice, is that it just permeates the knowledge and gets you to kind of slow roll that change a little bit more to the organization, to the point where they're not noticing, and you're not even really trying. It's just you're just present and um, asking questions. So.
And the second big takeaway that we want people who aren't as familiar with large scale Scrum to understand is it's not about making Scrum bigger.
Hmm.
It's about descaling.
Yes, and not to knock any frameworks that have scale in the name, but I mean, it's true.
I
You
just
want to
did, but
think.
it's okay.
I tend to try and be a little bit more respectful, but anyways, the I think a really great, and we'll put this in, I think, in the show notes, is that there's a picture from SpaceX, and it shows that their variants or evolution of their Raptor rocket, and it goes 1, 2, 3, and you look at the first one, and you think traveling to space is very complex, so it must be a very, very complex piece of equipment, and it sure is. The first one had like uh, I don't know, probably hundreds of tubes, if not more. And then you see the second one, it's a little bit less. And then you see the third one, you're like, does that thing even go to space? Like it looks so pristine, and there's only a few pipes here and there. It looks like, I don't know, like something that you drink coffee out of that would heat it for you or something like that. Like it looks like art. And so you think about, well, geez, how did they get that? Well, they kept descaling. They kept making it, why is this thing failing? And really improving and refining,
Mhm.
to get back to that, to using that word, is refining the organization or the piece of equipment that they use to go to space. And I think that when you take that to descaling an organization, people tend to think layoffs.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
layoffs.
no, mm-mm.
And literally day one, they won't even do any engagements with any organizations, because they want to retain those people and the knowledge that they have, because that's very valuable knowledge to
You
hold,
mentioned
to keep in the organization.
yeah, you mentioned one of the quotes that they use in the workshop, and it's, job safety, not role safety.
Hmm.
There is work here for everybody, we're gonna do it differently. Job safety, not role safety. So, yeah, no layoffs, no panicking. It doesn't mean hiring either. "Oh, we're gonna scale, we're gonna use large scale Scrum. Oh, well, we don't have the budget to hire right now." You don't have to. This is about
Right.
taking the people you have and eliminating bottlenecks and dependencies, working more efficiently. So we're descaling. When you scale a fish, you don't make it bigger. You take stuff
Yes.
away, you don't add stuff to it.
Yes.
So the third thing, our third tip.
So yeah, the third thing that I'd say is building a communication mode where you can thoughtfully chart out all the variables that are happening in your situation. And this is something that, yes, there are some things that you can think about directly in the less space, where less can apply, but you can also use this in other instances of just like. And so I was able to sit down with the supervisor um, and talk about one particular thing that they didn't like, or they had a problem with. And I said, okay, well, let's think about all of the uh, things that were supporting that, and also the things that either were already reducing that occurrence or eliminating it entirely, and all of that, and how all that feeds together into what is happening. And you can see that there's some vicious cycles in there in the system, that like, oh yeah, we'll never be able to exit unless we make this change here. And hey, there's if we do that a little bit more, and support that, and then yeah, we could probably reinforce this one negatively. Like, we don't want that one, so we know that these are huge, huge agitators in this, whether we want it or not, or see the things that we want. It was very, very helpful to that supervisor, and that wasn't even in the last class. It was just like, here's the skill set, so you
Mhm,
can use that
that you
in your
took away.
coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
and it was
identifying those
amazing.
variables, that system modeling.
Hmm. And
All
so
right.
then you're getting everybody on board with that because they're of the whataboutisms that come in there. Oh yeah, we can throw that up there.
Throw it up
How much
there.
do you think that contributes to the system? Is it happening often, less,
Let's
more,
find out.
whatever? Yes. So and then you're still building consensus so that the entire group is making a decision together. So that alignment is so tight when you're doing this.
Nice. I think I heard you say, well, I know you've been to Craig more than once. I've been
Mm,
to Craig's class 4 times.
nice.
So, right? I pick up something different every single time. But for the first time ever, we're having his co-creator and partner in crime, Bas Vodde, come to Minneapolis to deliver his version of the workshop, and it's kind of your fault.
It is.
Tell us why
I'm
it's your fault, Ed
sorry,
Ballou.
not sorry. I had heard that it was really good for anybody who was an existing grad or even a new grad just to take the class from both. You're going to get different things, and I mean, I've gone to Craig's class twice now, and I've very much appreciated it. I've gotten new stuff out of it, deepened my knowledge, and now it's like, can we get Bas here? Like that would be really awesome if we could. I mean, we've got a bunch of grads that have come through this. Um, I think. Well, I don't know if I had any repeats in my second class, but I know that there are like some of my colleagues in this community up here at other places. They've attended a couple times too. So it's like there's got to be more than me out there, and so that's
There
why I
is.
just lobbed one out and said, "Hey, can we make this happen? Is that even possible?"
And he said yes. He does come to the United States a couple times a year, not a lot, but just a couple times. And it's typically in Silicon Valley, or I think there was one class on the East Coast. But we got him to come to the frozen middle here, but in September, so the weather's going to be nice. And the radical difference between Craig and Bus, Craig jokes that Craig's class is Plan B, and that his is the ideal way to conduct, a less adoption. And I respect that. I do believe them when they say that Bus teaches a lot of the practical place to start because large scale Scrum doesn't advocate for Big Bang. They do talk about parallel organization and practical place to start. So I do believe that Bus's version of the class is a bit more how to, and so I think I'm really excited to bring that to Minneapolis. So we'll definitely put the link to register in the show notes below, and people can reach out to us at Collaborative Leadership Team for a discount code as well. Ed, once again, thank you for joining me for another round of Someone on the Internet is Wrong, this time debunking large scale Scrum, divorcing Scrum.
Thanks, Angela. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.